So we want to thank everyone for joining us today. This is part of the COVID and Cancer series, and my name is Rachel Justice, and along with Jillian Levinson, I'm the co-leader of Woman to Woman. And we are thrilled to have a really interesting, somewhat lighter, but really relevant topic on safe holiday entertaining during the pandemic. As I mentioned, this was actually a topic that was suggested, was actually requested, because I think it is so relevant to still be able to celebrate and create joyful moments despite everything going on in our world. Again, all of the people tuning in have the double whammy of cancer survivor or cancer patient during the pandemic. And it's really important to celebrate the holidays and the good times. And this is really, it's going to be a great presentation, but really come with your ideas, your questions. And as we said in the description, the goal would be for you all to leave with some ideas for a specific holiday celebration. So we are really lucky that we have two professional event planners with us. So Jeanette Rosner is the founder of Ruby Max Events, and Lissy Carr is the founder of Lissy Carr Events. They both have lots of really great information on their websites, which both of their websites were in the blast that we sent out. And we're so lucky to hear from them about their expertise, their experience, their ideas, and to kind of learn and get inspired from them today. So Jeanette and Lissy, thank you so much. We know this is an especially busy season for event planners. So thank you so much for taking the time to join Woman to Woman today.
Thank you for having us, Rachel. And we are glad to be able to present this and welcome everyone. I'm going to share the screen with everyone. Give me a second. Yay. Okay. So as Rachel said, my name is Jeanette Rosner, and I am a former attorney turned event planner. This was something that I always loved doing, and I started my own company at the end of 2018. I'm based in New York City, and I really just focus on social events, mainly bar and bat mitzvahs. And Lissy, I will let you introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. So nice to be here. Thank you for having us today. So my background is in all kinds of event production and also TV and film, but this was a great transition for me to starting my own company, also in the social event space, bar bat mitzvahs, weddings, milestone birthdays, virtual gatherings, Zoom parties now in the last couple of years, 19 months or whatever it's been, hard to keep track. And it's a good sort of flexible schedule as a mom. Also, just to add, I know Jeanette's sort of in the same boat as I am. So even though it's weekend work, certainly with helpful to have supportive partners on that one. But it's a fun job, and it's also a sort of relatively flexible job too. So anyway, so happy to be here.
And we actually just met, the two of us. We became friends about a year ago, maybe a little bit less. I actually was following Lissy on Instagram, and I felt like we had very similar personalities and was planning on reaching out, and then spoke to an entertainment vendor. And in the course of that conversation, he said, you really remind me of someone. Turns out he was also talking about Lissy. So I had to reach out, and we became instantaneous friends. And now we share, we share ideas. We talk about best practices and, help each other out, and also are good friends. So it's been a great journey. Okay, so getting on to entertaining during the holidays. I think the most important question is what comfort level you have during the pandemic. And to preface it by saying there really is no right or wrong answer. You just need to stay true to yourself and do what you feel most comfortable with. So we grouped it into three categories. The first being conservative, where you really want to minimize risk as much as possible. And I know that that's something that, everyone on this panel discussion is it takes very seriously and has to be very concerned with. And so, so again, the first is conservative, minimizing risk as much as possible. The second is somewhat cautious. You want to entertain, but you still want to be safe about how you do it. And then the last is ready to party. And, we know some people fall into this category as well, where, everyone's kind of tired about hearing of COVID for the past year and a half or so, and they're ready to host as if COVID doesn't exist. But even in that scenario, there are still things that you can do to keep everyone safe. So, and what's nice about this is Lissy and I were talking about this. We kind of fall on different levels here. So I tend to be more conservative throughout the pandemic. And Lissy, I know you're conservative too, but you are a little bit more open to doing things, right?
Yeah. And I think just to add to what you said, Jeanette, about there being no right and wrong answer, I also would say that a lot of the traditional sort of etiquette, if you will, has just gone out the window, right? So a lot of people who are inviting guests are very comfortable to say, and we'll get to it later, but in terms of staying safe, comfortable saying you have to wear a mask, or we're only doing it outdoors, and we'll get to all that stuff. So, but the point being, and it's important to remember in, sort of a follow-up to staying true to yourself, that there's no right and wrong anymore when it comes to hosting an event, because COVID just threw a wrench in everybody's lives. And so, so you shouldn't feel like you're breaking a rule or you're not doing what's normally done. That just doesn't exist anymore, which is good.
And you can't worry as much about, upsetting someone or possibly, I mean, there's still ways to do it. But again, if you're concerned about safety, as you should be, you should be open about how you feel and what you're comfortable with, and not let other people's feelings necessarily guide what you do or don't do. So again, the first being the most conservative, if you are still very much concerned about getting together with other people in person, there are still fun things that you can do during COVID to entertain. You can hold Zoom gatherings. Zoom really has become an amazing tool that I think is here to stay for forever. And you can do this more expensively, and you can do this really inexpensive. There's lots of free options online if you want to host a holiday game night. And I have some links here. The first is to various different game ideas that most of which are free, that you could play with family members or friends. I've even done this, the bingo, great thing to do over Zoom. I included a link to a free printable bingo card site. And then they also have apps or websites with free bingo callers. And I've done this with other families where we did a virtual game night and it cost nothing. And then you can also do something a little bit more, special if you want. There are all sorts of virtual classes now available. You can do a mixology class. Again, there are companies that will host game and trivia nights, and they do it a little bit more elaborately. You can do a floral design class. And again, if anyone is interested after this discussion, for some links, we're happy to provide that. Musical performances, chocolate, wine, scotch tasting, and you can send people some of these things ahead of time. So, you could send like sample chocolates for everyone to partake in a chocolate tasting. You could do a baking class. I actually did this for my daughter last year. She, her birthday was in December, so there was no outdoor party option. And I hired someone and the great thing about Zoom is you can hire people from all across the country. And so a lot of times you can get much better rates. So I hired someone for a baking class, and then I, just to jazz it up a bit, I ordered personalized oven mitts. I sent packages with the mitts and with some of the baking ingredients to her friends. And it really ended up being a great party. So you could really get creative with this.
One more thing. Sorry, Jeanette, just to
no, go ahead.
Interject. One more thing to add that's not on that list, but is very holiday appropriate, is also just a family reunion. We did that last year with my family for Thanksgiving. It was actually the day after Thanksgiving on Friday, and we just sent a link out to everybody and asked everybody to just, as an icebreaker almost, even though we're family, just a sort of conversation starter. So, what are you watching on Netflix these days? So it really did start the conversation. Obviously, there was a lot of back and forth about the best show or the best this and that. But, no frills, just really simple and such a nice way to connect, especially around the holidays. Anyway.
Yeah, great. And again, you can go.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So how much is it for a Zoom? Is it like, do you pay by hour? Do you pay, like, how does that work?
That's a great question. So with Zoom offers free sessions. They're limited to 40 minutes, but you can send out multiple codes to people, multiple logins. And so you could continue the conversation. It could be 40 minutes, or you can, have it go on as long as you want. You'll just have to, every 40 or so minutes, you'll have to send out a different link.
So everyone, like, if I have my brothers involved, I can get them each to have a different code, and then they'll sign in with another code, and we can do another 40 minutes.
So actually, well, there's that, or it's a little bit of a Zoom hack, but you can actually have everybody, once the Zoom ends, they can sign in with that same code,
right,
as long as the meeting is over. Meaning, if I send you code 1234 and we're all on the same code, as soon as that 40 minutes is up, you can sign back in with that same link, just like you signed on today. There's also Google Meets, which is another sort of Zoom format. It's not as popular, so people aren't as familiar with the interface and the platform to sign on. But I don't think that one actually has a limit, or at least last time I checked, it didn't. So, so that's another option: Google Meet, and of course Zoom, like we're on today.
Okay.
Yeah, and there is a paid option for Zoom that allows you to have unlimited calls. But you really, if you're just doing this for a one-time event, there's really no reason for you to sign up for that, because as Lissy said, you can just go back to the same link, or,
Oh no, I was interested in, like, what you were saying with the baking, with something like that. I wouldn't want that to be interrupted. So I would want to do the paid option for that.
So, no, go ahead, Lissy.
No, I was going to say, so the paid option, I can't remember the exact pricing. We can certainly get that to you afterwards, I think. But I would say that with the paid option, if you were to just do it as a one-time fee, then like cancel your subscription, again, it's much less expensive than hosting a party. So I think it's like $9.99 or something like that, but we can look into that. However, to that point though, if you notice this third bullet here, keeping your Zoom or Google Meet events to under 1 hour, that is something that has been tried and true that both Jeanette and I have found, generally speaking, whether it's a meeting or actually even a fun event. After about 45 minutes to an hour anyway, that Zoom fatigue really starts to set in. So so that's just something to keep in mind when you are planning your event. A baking may take longer, although again, keeping it short and sweet is always the best way to go. It sort of leaves people wanting more without losing their interest. And there actually, physically speaking, is something called Zoom fatigue.
Right.
And people just get tired. So
yeah. And just going
Sorry to
back,
interrupt. I just looked on Zoom. So again, as you said, it's free if you want for up to 100 people for 40-minute meeting caps, and then for $14.99 a month, you get, it's still up to 100 people, but unlimited time and unlimited amounts of meetings.
And then you just have to remember to cancel after a month if you don't want to continue. And the other thing I was going to say is if you do end up using an outside company. So for example, when I did hire someone for the baking party, they also have their own Zoom link that is unlimited, and they provide you with that link. So if you're doing it on your own, then you'll need to have a Zoom account. But if you're getting someone, they should be able to provide you with their own link, and then you don't have to worry about that aspect of it. So,
okay.
And again, these are just ideas. You don't have to send anything, but some ways to make it fun. And these are more elaborate ones that we did for bigger events, where, just to make it more festive, boxes were sent out ahead of the event. Whether it was a milestone birthday or, in this case, like there was a bat mitzvah, and that way everyone can participate. You can send out nothing again, or you can send out something as simple as, a snack for everyone to share, and you can put it into like one of those colorful pouches and just send it through regular mail. You can create, let's say, a personalized tumbler, and everyone can have a drink together using their tumblers, and share in the experience that way. Again, it could be as elaborate or as simple as you want. And, just an idea of, adding something a little bit more festive to the Zoom. Okay. Then, also cautious, but you want to start seeing other people in person, not just through Zoom. And there are safer ways to do this. Now, granted, the holiday season, we're in the colder months, but, in some cases, if you have the ability to get a tent, you could do something outdoors in a tent. You can get heaters for the tents. You could, if you have a backyard, again, different price ranges, but you could consider having a food truck come in. And that's something fun. And there are all sorts of food trucks. Like there are, regular like meal food trucks, and all sorts of dessert food trucks, and, custom candy food trucks. I mean, the sky's the limit in terms of what's out there. And another thing is, this has become super popular during COVID, are the fire pits. If you're lucky enough to have one in your backyard, if not, I've even seen images of people using their charcoal grill to toast marshmallows, and set up some folding chairs, bring blankets and hats out to people. And again, if you're able to and you want to, you can even go crazy and have like custom hats made for everyone. You could set up a cute hot cocoa bar. I mean, this picture over here is honestly from Amazon, and it's a kit for like 25 people for under $20. But you can do this entirely on your own as well. So there's really a lot of different options. So, s'mores and hot cocoa, that sounds like a pretty good holiday get together.
I know also, Jeanette, that you had said that when you were doing for your daughter, you went to the dollar store, and I know that they have things like mugs and hats and stuff like that. And I feel like Dollar Tree is such a great source for things like that.
Rachel, you introduced me, I think, to Dollar Tree, or got me really into it. And I got all the measuring cups, the same ones that were $6 or $7, on Bed Bath & Beyond. I got, a box. They were like they were under $1 because it was a whole set. It was really inexpensive. So yes, you can definitely get great finds. And if you don't want to go into the store now, as I am trying to avoid a lot of stores, Dollar Tree, if you order, a case, and again, a case can be pretty inexpensive there, you can get it delivered. So you don't even have to, you can shop online and see what goodies you find.
Balloons too, helium balloons. I mean, really,
Yeah.
from Dollar Tree, you'd be amazed at how much you could do the whole party, favors,
Totally.
whole thing from there, as I
Yeah.
have certainly done as well.
Yeah. It's a great store. And you know, and if you decide that you're comfortable enough going indoors, you know, but you still really want to be cautious, you know, these are some of the suggestions that we have. I mean, you can limit your gatherings to only vaccinated friends and family. You could still keep windows open. It's a little chilly, but you know, can leave them open for air circulation, and you can invest in an inexpensive air purifier if you want to go that extra measure, you know, you want to take that extra measure. And you could also consider, you know, we did this for a lot of our larger scale events, but you can, even if guests are vaccinated, you know, we know that there's still breakthrough cases. You can ask your guests to get tested ahead of time. You know, people say the gold standard is the PCR test, but that's usually, you know, you need to take that 72 hours ahead of time, and you have to physically go into a lab or something, or a drugstore to do that. I've been relying a lot on the over-the-counter tests. There's a company called Binex Now. They sell 2-pack tests at Walgreens and CVS, and actually even better than that, Walmart has them for a fraction of the price, and you can get them delivered again. And you can even send these kits to your guests ahead of time if you want to make it easier on them, and just ask everyone to test that morning. And it's just another level of you know, cautiousness, and it makes everyone feel more comfortable getting together. And again, because you're doing something small, this photo over here just gives you an idea. You could still do something festive to greet your guests. Like you can, you know, this is a nicer balloon arrangement, a balloon arch, but you could do like a nice do-it-yourself banner that you hang on the door to welcome everyone, you know, just so that guests get excited as soon as they walk through the door.
Just a note on those, the rapid tests, they're very easy. You know, it should not be daunting. Like Jeanette was saying, over the counter from CVS, Walgreens, Walmart, it really is a simple 15-minute process. That even the youngest kids, my kids are very uncomfortable with that, you know, sticking it up their nose. And yet they did it, and we just waited, and it was exciting to see the line. Thank goodness it said negative. We saw our 98-year-old twin aunties in Cleveland for Thanksgiving, so we did not want to bring anything to them. And you know, again, like Jeanette said, it's just that extra level of peace of mind when you're coming into somebody's home or just seeing people.
Yeah, and it's definitely common. People do it, you know, for large scale events, but they do it for family gatherings too. And, you know, I think most people are open to it. And again, this is one of those times where even if a guest isn't, you could just say, you know, for everyone's safety, we're asking that you do it. And if a guest chooses not to do it, that's fine. They can, you know, not come, or but it really is not an inconvenience, or it shouldn't be. And especially if you decide to send someone the test ahead of time, there's really no reason to not do it.
We also made a discovery recently before my brother's wedding, that if you're in New York City, there are trucks, apologize for the dog, there are mobile trucks that go around all over the city, and it's totally free, and you get your results in less than 24 hours, and it's a PCR test, and they do children also. So there are different companies that do it. The one we did is LabQ, but a lot of people before the wedding did that.
Yeah, I do all over the city, so that is another easy way to do it. All right, let's see. I'm passing this on to you if you're ready to party.
Less cautious of the two of us. No, of course, you know, we're not in pre-COVID times, unfortunately, but for sure, any kind of larger gathering, parties, or just even a holiday dinner, family reunion, whatever it is you're planning over the holiday season should certainly still be safe. And as we noted earlier, not to worry about asking your guests to get tested, limiting your guest list to the vaccinated friends only. You know, of course, There is the risk with the littler kids who can't be vaccinated yet, although thankfully we're the five and above are these days, which is great. We have this like cute little image here that if you wanted to do something fun, just to say, I'm open to high fives, or I'm open to handshakes, or an elbow tap only. You can give out these sort of red, yellow, green sort of stop, go, pause sort of colors of bracelets. Another thing people are doing are getting custom masks. They're a little expensive. People sort of have the masks that they like to wear that are comfortable for them, or even just a box of masks at the door, just so people can feel they understand what you're trying to say. And if they've forgotten theirs or whatever, they slip that paper mask on there.
Sorry, just to add to that, and you're going to touch upon this a little bit later, but even when you're inviting guests, like maybe just to make everyone comfortable, you could just say masks are welcome, so that way for those that are more cautious and still prefer to wear their masks, they don't feel strange putting it on, even if everyone's not wearing it.
Yeah, absolutely. We are, as a more ready to party individual, my husband and I are back to hosting an annual holiday party this Saturday night. And very clearly in the invitation, we said the party will be indoors. We will have a fire pit outdoors for people who are not comfortable. Small fire pit. I mean, we don't have a whole lot of space outside, but masked or unmasked individuals welcome. So we just made it very, very clear upfront. And I know for other events, I don't know if anybody's planning anything larger, but people are saying, please RSVP ASAP so that we can reconfigure the guest list. We're keeping things smaller because of COVID, but we would like to invite more people. So if you can't come from out of town or you're not comfortable, let us know sooner than later so that we can sort of open it up to the next person who didn't quite make the cut for that more intimate gathering. And again, like we said at the top, all of these things, so it's sort of like no rules really. You should feel comfortable being as communicative and honest with your friends and family as possible.
This is great. I wish I had done this previous, because I'm actually hosting a party for celebration of life for my mom who's passed. And it would have been her 75th birthday on December 4th. And I have 105 people coming to this restaurant.
She was loved.
She was. And the restaurant is hosting and is stating that they have to be vaccinated. But I would have loved to have something like this where, if people don't want to, shake their hands, shake someone's hands, or like I still thinking, maybe how can I do this? This is perfect. Like, people might want to have their distance still and not want to shake hands and not,
You know what you could do? Just a thought, because it just came to me. Even in a dollar store or a Staples, you know how they have those different color stickers,
Mm-hmm.
like a round sticker. I don't know what they're for, file folders or whatever. If you want to just choose 3 colors or 2 colors, like a shake or an elbow tap, however you want to make it fun for your guests, what feels right, you could just have somebody stick a sticker on their shirt.
Yeah.
Okay. Or maybe it's like a name tag or something, and like hello, my name is, do not shake my hand.
Yeah.
Or even like the gold star, the different color stars, you can use the stars, and that you can find anywhere, even at a drugstore. Okay. You can make your own sign. Any of this can be done.
Yeah, the sign I can do. That's not a problem. It's just getting the rings and stuff, but I can do the stickers. That's a good idea. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Good. So speaking of hosting at a restaurant or wherever you may be hosting, we're doing it, like I said, in our home. And I've already gotten like these adorable, bamboo sort of tongs, I guess, disposable tongs. And of course, a ton of various toothpicks and all that kind of stuff, smaller bowls, because one way to really make people comfortable is not to have like a whole platter of food out where people are touching and grabbing and coughing on it or who knows what, but to just do a more of an individual kind of bite-sized treat. that you might that people might feel more comfortable taking as opposed to scooping out or grabbing, the chips with their hands. So, so there's all kinds of ways to do that. Here are some images of these individually wrapped treats and foods and appetizers and stuff like that. Like I said, just from Amazon, I ordered bamboo tongs that are great and individual amazing savings. I don't know if that's a store that you all have access. Everybody on this chat has access to. It's much like the dollar store, and they have a ton of small bowls and papers and stuff. Of course, lots of napkins out. And then, when you're doing buffet, or in your case, Nancy, if you're going to have people serving your guests, certainly having them in masks and gloves is something that I would ask. Maybe just that as another precautionary measure if they won't already be sort of masked up and in gloves to serve.
Yes, I am gonna have them serve like that. Yeah, we first thought of doing buffet, but then I said, what, let's just do sit down because it's gonna be too much doing buffet.
Yeah, so that's another buffet, right? Buffet can get a little messy, but again, people are, as long as nobody else is touching it, and it's just the server who's in masks.
Yeah,
something to consider.
And I have noticed at restaurants, there are more and more waiters and waitresses at restaurants who are not masked. But again, if you're hosting a party and you have certain concerns, I think you absolutely can ask them, in a gracious way, just saying, we're trying to keep everyone safe. There's some, immunocompromised attendees. Can all the staff please wear masks, possibly gloves? I know in New York City, everyone that's working in the restaurant has to be vaccinated.
right.
Once you leave New York City, that's not the case. So, that's another thing to think about.
Yeah, this is in New York City, so they are, they will be masked and they will be wearing gloves. I was already told. Yeah.
Okay, good. And
Can I say something? It's Robin.
Sure.
Hi, can I say something? It's just, I also hosted a very small family dinner in a restaurant. And I had said that we had somebody who was health compromised. And originally we were just going to be in the general restaurant, not thinking that they had any room for such a small party. And the minute I mentioned that we had somebody that had a health issue, I said, we have a small little room. It's sort of like a library. But we could make it, we could put tables in there and it could seat, we could put enough seating in there and you could be private, which I was like shocked, like out of nowhere, they pulled out a room. So I think if people do come forward and ask and are open about what their issues are, sometimes there are, solutions the restaurant can offer.
yeah,
That's great.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful solution. And it goes just, as you said, Robin, it just goes back to being honest and open. And I think people do want to be accommodating and respectful of that. That's a great idea. So moving on, again, in that same vein of making your guests comfortable, we always like to have lots of hand sanitizer around, whether it's a pump at the entrance or individual. Here, we have the customized Maya sanitizers, but it doesn't have to be customized, certainly. And people do definitely feel comfortable having that sort of as a backup at their seats. When you're hosting something in your house, obviously you don't use disposable napkins, probably disposable towels, but to put out a box and maybe even take the towel away if you don't mind sort of the environmental implication of it. Just take that towel away, make it very clear that everybody should just use the disposable napkins. I think it's Kleenex. They actually sell like a taller box where you pull it out like a tissue, but it's sort of a bit of a thicker disposable towel, and you can just put that right on the back of the toilet or wherever you have room. Some bathrooms are smaller than others, but it's good.
I bet Dollar Tree has some good napkins also.
Yes, Dollar Tree should always be your first stop. Whatever you can't get from Dollar Tree, you can supplement with somewhere else. And then, what we've been doing a lot, for your event, Nancy, with 100 people, we are actually seating people at smaller tables, sometimes like family. as opposed to longer tables or, 8, 10, 12 person tables. Again, it's just another level of comfort. I think I did a party, believe it or not, for 26 people. This was back in June, and it was outdoors, but they were very, very cautious. 26 people, I had 18 tables. So if you think about that, normally for a 26 person party, it would be like, two,
three or four. Yeah.
Exactly. So, but they really were cautious. And so we did it, and so that's another way to really keep people sort of separated. A lot of people are saying, keep your mask on until you're seated and eating. And again, when you're mulling around and you're talking to other people, giving hugs and all that kind of stuff, if people are giving hugs, at least the mask does give a level of protection. And when you're actually just seated and eating, you pull it down or you take it off. And then, as we alluded to earlier, the last bullet here is just be really clear about your expectations up front with the invitation, that you're either hosting it indoors or dress warmly, wear appropriate shoes because you're going to be on the grass as opposed to a high heel. We're welcoming people who are masked, or we ask you to stay masked unless you're seated at your table eating. All those kinds of, we're asking you to test beforehand, email us the results, or send us a picture of your vaccination cards. All of these things are really par for the course now. And, and appreciated, not only expected in some cases, but really appreciated too. So there is that general feeling of respect for anybody who's at that more conservative end of caution. And I think that's it for this slide. So Jeanette, take it away.
So the final things we want to focus on, again, there's all these restrictions and practices and guidelines, but you still want it to be a fun event. And I think once events started picking up during COVID, the idea was really, okay, you might have to cut your guest list tremendously and have a really small party, but focus on making it an experience for your guests. So again, just making them feel special. Small can still be incredibly festive. In some ways, it could be even more festive because you can focus on your smaller group and do some more fun things. Again, these are just some fun sites for party ideas. If you do want to, again, Dollar Tree is amazing. If you want to add a few fun extra things, some of these places will have things like custom stirrers, custom napkins, or placemats. Fest.com, they will send you like party packages, like more decor stuff. This is the picture on the bottom is a sample of one of their packages. And they also, just for everyone participating today, they are offering a 15% discount code if you just use the code RubyMax15. Again, just a fun way to add some cheer and decor to your home party. Other things are like, more fun paper goods if you want to, go disposable. One of the nice things is, personalized favors if you can do it. And the picture on the upper right corner, this is a place that I order from a lot. They do these custom Oreo cookies. And they're also offering, if you mentioned that you were part of this discussion, they're offering 15% off your order. They can put any image on it. You can use it as a place card as a giveaway. And again, you can make your own. You can bake something and get cute stickers and ribbon and cellophane and just, give guests something fun to take home. That just makes it a more festive experience. So you don't have to order from any of these companies. You can, again, get all your stuff from the dollar store and make your own to-go treats and your own, actually on my next slide, there's pretty doesn't have to be pricey, and it's true. I mean, decor is one of those things you can spend a ton on flowers, and they're really expensive right now. And I love flowers more than, you know, anyone, I think. But there's also really simple ways to make your event pretty. And I love a couple of these sites. So Darcy Miller has a ton of really creative do-it-yourself ideas. So I included a link to her website. David Stark, he's a major designer, so he's out of, you know, most budgets, but on his Instagram he often posts, you know, some do-it-yourself creative ideas for place cards and, you know, other decor that you can make at home. Pinterest obviously, you know, has a wealth of information, you know, and these are just some examples. This is something as simple as taking, like, you know, those Ferrero Rocher chocolates, putting a toothpick inside, and you can get some cardstock and cut, you know, little squares and handwrite everyone's name and put it on their plate. And it's simple, but so cute. You know, and then this garland, they used real nuts, and they painted it with gold paint. So there's lots of really creative and fun things. And, you know, that's part of making it an experience. Again, you may not be hosting something as large as you normally would, but you could still make it fun. And there's lots of inexpensive ways to do that. And I think that is it for the formal part. But we, you know, would love to take any questions.
This was awesome. It was so helpful and so interesting. I have so many ideas. And as Nancy said, I wish I could kind of turn back the clock on some events that I had and, you know, and incorporate some of these. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit more when you talked about some of the free ideas for games and things like that. I know you mentioned bingo, but can you also get more specific? Because honestly, some of these would be great ideas to even incorporate into our virtual programming for Woman to Woman. We did over the summer, we had a summer fun series where we had teenagers do some activities. And for those who participated, Nancy, I think you were on those, and they were really fun, some of the stuff that we did. But any other ideas, or anyone, you know, who's an attendee, if you have any ideas of things you've heard of or participated in?
One thing I know, and also in that link on the other slide, because everyone will get these, we'll send the slides out.
If you give me the slides, I can also include it when we put the video, when we post the video, so we can have, so the links could work. Yeah.
You know, another game that's great to do virtually, they have categories. I don't know if anyone has played that. And they, you know, give you online, like all the lists of categories. And then you can just take like pads, like you can send notepads to everyone, or everyone can just grab a note, you know, a piece of paper and, you know, write down like the different things that come to mind for each of the categories. So that's another one. Or even, you know, some version of a charades game that you can do online. Lissy, I don't know if there's other things that you've done.
There's there's a website called Sporkle, which I can put in the chat, and it's just a kind of it's almost like a trivia game in a way, where you have a timer and you guess things. So if we were all guessing, you know, the top 10 songs from 1999 or something like that, we would shout the answers and one person would be typing it in. And it's just one of those, it's like an icebreaker game. It's great for teens, certainly if the topic is not music of 1999. And, you know, it's just a fast moving sort of guessing game, trivia type of game that we were doing a lot over COVID. I know that some people do like even crosswords. You mentioned categories, but word games, that kind of stuff.
And yeah. I don't think there's a free option for Kahoot, right? Because Kahoot is
there not a free? There must be, because we've been signing on for, I mean, the kids do it. I think you have to download the app maybe, but Kahoot's another, right, that's like another scorekeeping kind of trivia game.
And especially like kids love it. They get really competitive with it, but I'm sure adults would too. I honestly don't know. It's, you know, again, in the chat, I can,
A friend of mine actually did a baby shower, and she did a trivia with the baby shower, and it was so fun.
That's great. Yeah,
Yeah.
for some reason, trivia is one of those things that people love. You know, this is kind of funny also, and believe it or not, it's even more for adults than for kids, is Simon Says. If you have a good Simon Says caller, as they're called, that can be a very funny, fast-moving game as well. That's something that, that I was involved in planning for an organization. But I'm trying to think of other games. I don't know. We'll give it some thought. We can come back to you, Rachel, on that. But
it was a music one.
Oh,
I'm sorry. No, it was a music trivia for the baby shower. So it was like music with mentioning stuff about babies, and you had to guess the music. It was pretty fun.
That's great.
Really cute. I was going to say, I know that my brother has done, I think it's called Jackbox, which I think is paid. It somehow is through the TV. I don't exactly understand what it is or how he does it, but I know he's done that before, but only one person has to pay. I guess he's the one that has the subscription, and then other people go in and he shares his screen, and you actually use your phone, I think kind of like Kahoot, and you like link into the specific room, and it asks questions, and then it, it tells you who's won and stuff.
Actually, Ari does something like this, Rachel. Ari does it on an app. I never signed on. I'm a terrible mother, but he does host one of these trivia shows on an app. Yeah. I don't know the app. I'm terrible. I have to get you the app.
Send us his name. We'll need him.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously. Well, speaking of, also, we have, because we were trying to think, we wanted to do for the woman to woman community a holiday celebration. Obviously, we wanted to keep it virtual and safe. And so Ari, who Robin is mentioning, that is her son, is a professional comedian. And so he has generously volunteered his time. So he's going to do a comedy show. So it kind of goes to what you were saying about musicians and stuff like that. So that's going to be coming up in December 13th, I think, at noon. So we figured, we can give the gift of laughter to our amazing women.
Absolutely. And I've hired a mentalist, like a magician, as well. And that's a huge hit too. So yeah, I mean, whatever, any of these resources, we're happy to give our suggestions of stuff that works.
There's also some companies, and again, their pricing varies, but that they will host it all for you. So they'll do like a Family Feud type game, all sorts of probably more sophisticated on Zoom, but I'm sure they come at different price points also. So, that's another thing too, depending on the size of your group and, what the budget is. But that could be something to think about.
I'm wondering for everyone who's on here, if your Thanksgiving celebrations, if there was any element for those of you who did gather with people, if there was anything that was different or that changed, or, if any of these ideas were there. I can tell you as an example, we went to my cousin's. They did have everybody test beforehand. It was everybody was vaccinated, but they did require testing beforehand, which definitely made us all feel more comfortable. And they had a lot more individually, not packaged, but individual servings of things, as opposed to, like you said, big bowls of nuts or things like that. I noticed they had, for example, they had cheese platters, but they were kind of spread out all over. So it wasn't that you were kind of leaning over one big cheese platter and cutting your cheese. They had like 4 smaller cheese platters that they put around. And even with the crackers, they were sort of more individual, as opposed to one big thing that had the crackers in it. And it was just different than what they normally do. I also noticed that nothing was served really at the table family style. That they did the serving. So for example, they start with soup, they served soup, and Kate brought over and put the bowl in front of everybody else. So I didn't really realize that my cousin happens to be an infectious disease doctor. So she probably thought about that beforehand, as opposed to everyone breathing in the soup and stuff. So
she's my kind of person, Rachel.
My son's dressed up as a turkey. And for the kid, for the little ones outside. And they did sort of a turkey chase, to catch the turkey.
It's so
And
cute.
they were dressed up in a costume. Yeah, that was cute.
That's so cute.
Really cute. What about everyone else? Did you, was there anything different that you noticed or did this year at your celebrations that's not what you would do on a normal Thanksgiving? And I also saw it. Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Last year at that time, I was in the hospital Thanksgiving. So this year it was a gathering at my brother's house, a little smaller than it usually is, but he did set up a separate little table for my husband and I. We had our own little corner. But we were in the same area as everybody else, just completely far enough away to be safe. And really it was about, keeping distance, or, I would put my mask on if I felt, people coming at me, giving me hugs, because it was such a big, joyous celebration because we were there this year compared to last year. So it was different. But my brother really, he had an outdoor fire. He has an outdoor fireplace. There was the ability to go outside. It was chilly here, but, we just made the best of it and kind of moved around a lot, which made me feel more comfortable compared to staying in one place.
Awesome. I'm so glad. It sounds like it was a much better Thanksgiving this year than it was last year.
Absolutely.
I'm glad you were able to celebrate. I noticed that for we celebrate Hanukkah. What we are doing this year is kind of similar to what you suggested, Lissy, is that every night we're lighting virtual candles with different people in our family. So kind of different groups of cousins and, aunts and uncles and grandparents and stuff. And the thing that's actually nice about that is on Wednesday night, we're doing it with a whole branch of our family that's not local, that we wouldn't get to do anything live with. And it's really nice. It's a lot of people who are in Pittsburgh and in Florida and kind of scattered around. So it's actually incorporating more people into it. So,
yeah.
There are definitely silver linings, to the pandemic. And with technology, while, there's a lot of things that I don't like about technology, I do think that, Zoom and Google Meet and all these other platforms really allowed people to get together that otherwise wouldn't have. And, even Lissy, you see this like, with the larger events, a lot of times now guests that are overseas or, in another state are able to participate in the service via Zoom. Before the pandemic, they just wouldn't have been able to come, or, they'd see photos, but they weren't a part of the event itself. And so this has allowed for, in strange ways, for families to come together more so. So, and I think that that's here to stay. I think, this concept of, allowing people to participate via Zoom for larger events. So
I see actually, Bridget, thank you for joining. We actually are about to run out of time, but I think that was a perfect note to end on, Jeanette. I think that as much as there are challenges, that there definitely are silver linings to the creativity that people are forced to use when planning celebrations during this very crazy time in our world. You two were amazing. The ideas that you gave were so helpful, so fun. I love that so much of it is either free or you can do on a real budget, or if you are lucky enough to have a huge budget, then you can outsource also. But it seems like there are amazing options. And I love that Nancy already is incorporating some of your ideas into her upcoming celebration of life for her mom. I absolutely will be incorporating some of your ideas too. And thank you so much. This was fantastic.
Thank you for having us. And we hope everyone has wonderful holiday celebrations. And Nancy, hopefully when is your gathering?
This Sunday.
Well, I hope it goes really well. I'm sure it
Thank
will.
you.
And most importantly, I hope everyone enjoys time with their families over the holidays.
Absolutely.
Safe and fun. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you all so
everyone.
much. And thank you for joining today. And I'm sure a lot of
Thank
people
you.
will be checking this out in our video library. So thank you so much and have a great day, everyone.